Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. All right. So where were we at? We done got off on something else the Lord had.
Financial literacy.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You were breaking down financial literacy. Just briefly so they can get the whole gist of that one more time.
So basically, financial literacy for me, it means to understand how your money works. So while you're sleeping, while you're, in the present and in the future. So you definitely want to be educated and understand how it works so that it can benefit you later.
Okay. So
So am I being
I
able, are they hearing me? Okay.
yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. Everybody's up now. Um, so financial literacy for the everyday person, right?
Hmm.
That would start with what? How we save, how we spend, what is how does that plan? How does that Okay, so how does that walk out in the life of people that say, I'm too broke to pay attention. So what do I do to try to move at least even if I don't move into wealth closer to it?
Right. Well, I always think of it like a building block. So, like if you're building a house, right, you have your foundation at the bottom. Your foundation is all of your accounts that's going to protect your money. So, if you are making an income, whether you are satisfied with the amount that you're getting or not, so if you have something coming in to your household. So, the first thing you want to do is to make sure you have protection against that. So, on your job, they have short-term disability, you may have health insurance, you may have a life insurance plan on the job. I always recommend you having one outside the job on your own policy. So you want to protect that and you want to make sure that you have definitely short-term disability because those are the things that if you don't, so if someone passes away, there's a major impact. If you can't work your job for a month to 2 months or 3 months, that's a major blow to some people who have to live from paycheck to paycheck. So I always start to say, make sure your foundation is intact. You don't have to have a whole lot of protection, but have some. So if something were to happen, right? Then you build up from the protection side to let's look at the debt. Now, this can be flip flop when somebody say, well, should I focus on debt or should I focus on savings? So you can do one or the other or both at the same time. But you want to be able to manage your debt. How much is coming into your household and how much is going out? And on this line, I'll take this like level of the foundation of building this financial house. I'll take a moment to say things like, so how do you do that, right? If you have a bank account, so most people have a bank account. Even if you have one of those debit cards where your money goes onto the debit card, you are able to access your statements, right? You need to look at the last 3 months of your statement. So whether you can print them out or you just look at them online. And I want you to go through and look at every minus sign, every debit that came out of there. So if you can print it out, that will be helpful because I usually take my clients through an exercise and I say, go ahead and put an asterisk, or highlight the ones that are fixed expenses. Those are the ones that are not going to go away, right? Like your mortgage or rent, if you have a car note, if you have, life insurance that you're paying out of pocket or disability, just things like that. Your light, electricity, things are not going to go away. So your needs, right? Then I want you to look at all the other minus signs. What minus signs? What are those? Are those subscriptions that we forgot to cancel? Is that cable? Are those high cell phone bills? Or were you paying for your phone bill and your kids and somebody else? And so you're paying a mini car note for your cell phone plan. How many times are you going out to eat at the restaurant? How many times are we going to get our hair and nails done? Look at all of those expenses because when people tell me, Aisha, I don't have enough money to save, I say, oh, yes, you do. You got enough money to save if you have income coming in. Now, for those of you that are, they may have gotten laid off or furloughed and things like that, that's a whole nother conversation. And the expectation at that point is just, survival and then doing other things that can bring in income. But if you have a steady income coming in, you have to learn how to manage your expenses. So once you do that, you may find, wow, I do have an extra $100 that I could spare. You don't have to cancel everything, but find different ways within the budget that you have or the money that's coming in, manage the expenses that are going out. So if you do that, you can then start to save a little bit and start thinking about future, start thinking about wealth and wealth strategies and things like that. So that's where I start. That's where I say to start protection, and then focus on that debt, and then focus on saving, putting at least 10% of your income away. So just like we tied 10%, we should be putting 10% of our income for the future in an account. And we
Wow.
can go over what that means.
That's deep right there. We're in trouble scene because I should have left my mother home, and she done hit cell phone car notes for cell phone bills, because and she done hit eating out. So I'm in trouble. See, I got to put my mother out of here. she can't stay for this show right here. She over here saying this is good. This is good.
One of the things that she said that I thought was really, really powerful, and I did this right around the time that this whole pandemic stay at home hit. I started looking at what I was paying, and I was paying over $300 for cable television, cable television, internet, and a phone through the cable company. And so I called and I called and I called, and I must have called about 15 times till I got it down to $150.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. And but well, the reason is we no longer have cable television. I refuse to pay for cable television when you can get all the television you want for free over the internet.
Okay. You sure can.
So, we still have televisions in the house.
We need to hook up over here, scene. We need to hook up over here.
I will tell you how to do it, girl.
All right. All praise God. Look at that.
That might be a whole nother show. In addition to that,
I'll be on that one.
One of the things that we have to do also, and you just said this, is when you review your files, what free 30-day subscription did you sign up for that you forgot at day 29 to call and cancel, or you ignored that email? So I went through those, and I swear I must have talked off about $75 of subscriptions that I had been signed up for, and they were just month after month taking money out of my account. And I was like, where's my money going? Well, I figured it out. And so those small things that we can do to shift people's mindsets to say, you know what, you got to do this if you want this, if you want this next level, because the Bible teaches us that we ought to be wealthy. We ought to be wealthy. And I think that we have enough to be wealthy. It's like you said, what can you do at home? Now, how many people, and I'm just going to pick on the ladies real quick, Terrellyn. How many ladies are now doing their own nails because they couldn't go to the place, and they found that you could order these cute little press-ons that are professional press-ons, and now people are using those on a regular basis. They're ordering them offline. I've even seen companies now, black-owned companies, come out with all kind of stuff with the diamonds and the rhinestones and bedazzled and all of that. So it's about making those necessary changes. Now, I still do need a pedicure. I will put that out there. So
hey, that's you have to. Self-care is important. It's just managing and making that plan. So if you cut out $175 a month, you know what I mean, and things that you either just didn't need or wasn't using anymore, then yes, you can take some of that savings, and now you're allocating it toward the things that you actually want to use for self-care, because self-care is important. So if it's important for you to get that pedicure, or for you to get that massage, if it's once a month or once a quarter, I am a fan for that. And I think that what happens is when we talk about budgeting, people don't like that word because sometimes it can be overwhelming. I got to sit down and go over all my expenses every month. And this is depressing because I'm working just to pay bills, right? But if you take the time, like we were just saying, and just see what can you cut out or replace. So if you're going to get your hair done, you're like, hey, that is a non-negotiable. My mom said that is a non-negotiable. She's been getting her hair done for once a week since forever, and now she's about to be 70. You can't tell that woman, but she did have to, over the quarantine, but now that things are going back, she's being safe about going to get that done. So if that is what you want to do, then that's fine. But you're not going out to eat 3-5 days a week. And that was I think when I review budgets, and when I go over expenses with my clients, that is probably the number one expense that I see. Going out to eat, it's the cell phone, and then it's going out to eat, cell phone, and then like the hair, nails for the ladies, and so that's kind of like the top three. So the fact that we were quarantined, everyone had to be in their home, and we cook more. Yes, your grocery bill may have gone up a little bit, because you're now eating more at home. But if you look to see the savings, because we'll go out, if you go out and get a cup of coffee every day, that could easily be $100 a month.
All right, Aisha. All right.
I was about to say, when you pull up, Taylor, what do Duncan say when you pull up? They call you by name.
They already got my order.
See? Hey, Pastor Moore, $2.25.
Why they say, why you late today? What's going on?
Come on.
You usually here an hour earlier. What's going on with you?
And
you and the old man must be arguing or something. What took you?
But see, if you like the Dunkin' Donuts coffee, buy the brew buy the bag, and you can. And so let's say, for instance, Mondays and a Friday, you like, I gotta have that coffee. Okay, then those are the days that you go have the coffee. The other days, you put that brew, go get the Dunkin' Donuts coffee.
K cups. Yes.
And put it in there. If you want to be fancy, you want the ground. Oh, my picture went off.
Yeah, I was gonna say we lost you.
There we go. If you want to be fancy, you want the ground or the bean, you can get that too. It will. I mean, you'll see that it'll start to save money, even if it's $10. If you save $10 a week, that's $40 a month. You know what I mean? That could be going to a savings account or an investment account. So
this is good stuff. I want to say to our listeners, if you have any questions, you can text me at 929-279-3828. Again, 929-279-3828. You can text your questions if anything comes up while we're talking. This is good stuff because a lot of times I think we just assume that we're too broke to move towards wealth. We think that if we don't have especially if you don't have a great job, you have a okay job, and you're trying to make your bills and stuff. I don't think people really associate that to I can really save, or the debt to income ratio. We don't take that into consideration because we're just like, child, there is no ratio. I just got to get these bills done. And so of course, we didn't talk about credit cards become an issue because folks are charging their lives away, and that 29% is a killer.
Well, I think that I was listening to something on YouTube today, and it struck again some of the things that we needed to be talking about when we talk about credit in general, and how 35% of the credit, I believe he said 35% is if you pay on time, 30% is how much of your credit you are actually using, and then the other portion comes up to some other, the other 35% comes up to something else. But what we have to keep in mind is if you're going to spend it, you got to pay it. So if it says $25, send the $25. Don't make a mistake and forget 1 month, and then you'll out in the next month and you 3 months behind. That's when it is. And basically, when we talk about credit cards, I think what has happened over the years, I know what happened to me. I'll say me, is I got my credit cards and I was like, man, I got $2,000 in my pocket. When in actuality, all I really had was a piece of plastic that said I'm taking out a loan from somebody for $2,000. Thank you. And what I really need to get to the point is that this should be a fallback. This should not be what I'm buying my groceries with. This should be a fallback. If God forbid something happens to one of the kids and we have to go to the hospital and we don't have that cash, that's what that credit card is for. It's to float me till I can get that stuff taken care of. So yeah, yeah. And I just wanted to show you this. Can you see it?
Oh,
Yes.
there it is.
Yes.
Okay, that right there, that's a bag of coffee, black owned company.
Mm.
I got 5 of these sitting in my thing. I just did the math for you, Tara. I did the math for you. You ready for it?
I'm listening.
$91 a month if you go 7 days a week.
Well,
That's $1,200 a year that you could be saving.
and
Now,
coffee.
in coffee.
See, you made Aisha faint. Her camera went out.
I know. I'm here, you guys.
But look,
She's so
right?
stressed out with that.
Right? Look, and this will make you. I don't know how big your cups are, but I'll make a pot each morning, and I can drink for the entire day off of that pot that I make. I normally make like 6 cups, and I'll drink that throughout the day. And that one bag will last me 2 weeks, and that was $12.99.
Oh. Okay, so I'm sorry. Okay, so you were talking a minute ago about your employer and the investment programs they have. Was that what you were talking
Right,
about?
life insurance, investment programs.
So
Um, yeah.
so as an employee, you should be asking your human resource department about these things. How does that work?
Well, yes, if you have a job that offers benefits. Now, not everybody, every job offers benefits. Even if it's health insurance, not all jobs will offer like a 401k or a 403b. Those are investment plans, or those are actually IRS codes for deferred plans for retirement. But a 401k plan, a 403b, group life insurance, typically with the group life insurance, it's just an automatic thing where they will basically give you 1 times your salary, and then sometimes they have an option for you to purchase additional coverage for pretty much pennies on the dollar. The only problem with that is, and that's great, but the only problem is that is if you lose your job, once you retire, if you change jobs, those insurance policies do not follow you.
Mm.
So I've had a lot of people where either they've retired and now they don't have insurance, but they may have taken an early retirement. But then if there were medical things that are going on, diabetes, cancer, there's heart conditions, just things like that, where if they try to get a policy on their own at that point, number one, it's going to be more expensive because maybe they've been at that job for 15, 20 years. So now they're older. And number two, if the health isn't in order, they may or may not be approved. So you always want to, have a small policy. And, some people get in debate on which kind, I just say it depends. But you want to have that policy outside the job. But definitely, you will go to your HR person, your benefits person or personnel, to ask about what benefits are available to you, so that you know. You should know how your retirement plan works. You should know if you have a 401k plan. You should know if that company matches, and if
Mm.
they match, how much do they match. So I usually give homework to my clients when they say, yes, I'm saving, I'm doing this 401k. I say, great. Well, what are they matching you? I think so. Or, well, how much? I have no idea. We want to know those things, right? Because I usually don't recommend you put more than what they're willing to match,
Mm.
because the 401k is a nice, it's nice, but it was actually made for, it wasn't, it's supposed to be something that was supposed to be permanent. It
Mm.
was actually made for, executives. So high income executives, like this was back in the 80s. And it was a way for them to put money away where they wouldn't have to pay taxes on it now. They will pay taxes on it later. But because the 401k is tied to the stock market, you know, if the market goes down, then your money goes down. If it goes up, then the money goes up, right? But you want to not just only have that 401k for your retirement.
We have a question. Someone said that their student loans are high, and she said,
Mhm.
I paid the interest on most to put something on the principal, and the others. Is consolidating these types of loans a good idea?
So with the student loan, you can consolidate those loans. You just have to really read the disclosures and, read the disclosures and make sure that it is going to make sense, right? So they have where you can consolidate your student loans with these private lenders, and they may say, we'll consolidate all of your student loans for 8%. You want to make sure that the government doesn't have a plan that would be better than that. So before you just go and start contacting these companies and let them talk you into consolidation, you want to make sure. Because I had a client that did the consolidation with the private lender, and it was fine, it was legit. But however, they went to work for a nonprofit agency, so a 501c3 company, and they were there for some time, and they wanted to participate in the forgiveness program, where there are there are certain occupations. If you work, then you'll get it forgiven if you make 120 payments, things like that. Well, because she pulled that from a federal loan to a private loan, she was no longer eligible for that. So the person who asked that question, I'm not sure what their industry is, but you just want to make sure you ask questions. So before you consolidate, go ahead and still contact your current processor. So whoever has your loan, to see what's available. And the student loans it's one of those things. I mean, it's like over $1.2 trillion worth of debt, in student loan debt. So I would definitely look at doing an income-based payment plan if you're already doing that right now, because due to COVID, they are allowing those deferments. But we get into that same here. You get into that if you do the deferment. I did it year after year after year after year, but that interest kept adding on, and it's like it didn't go anywhere. You still have the same amount of loan, if not more. So unless they do something in government, I mean, I'm really hoping and praying. I've been putting that on the altar for a long time. I'm like, Lord, let them supernaturally cancel this debt in Jesus' name. Because it's some people it's so large that the amount of income that they're bringing in now, it's just they'll be paying it, you know 10, 20, 30 years.
I,
So, so
go ahead. Go ahead.
I have a question. And you may or may not know the answer to this. But is it true that if you continue to go to school, you can continue to defer the student loans, right? And then
I'm a
is
witness
it
there. I'm a witness right there.
okay? So,
Me and my friend Pastor Rob decided we're going to college until hospice comes to pick us up.
well, see, that was my next question. Isn't there something that says that, like, when you hit 65 or 70, that then you don't have to pay that stuff back because of your age? Have you heard that before?
I have not heard that. I'm writing that down as a takeaway. So I'll do some
Okay.
research.
Okay.
I talked to a few attorneys that I know that help people with those student loans that go into default. But I know that if you're going to school and you defer it, I do believe like the interest doesn't keep going stacking up like on
Right.
time. Like
Right.
you can still make those interest payments, but it's different if you just defer it because you say that your income is, let's say your income is not high enough and you can't afford to pay it. Well, the interest, it just keeps just piling up on there. So I'm not sure about that. I'll have to double check,
Okay.
if it goes away. Because if that's the case, I'm enrolling in August. I'm just gonna keep.
We're gonna have like 5 doctorate degrees when it's all over with. I mean, doctorates and everything. You'd be like, how you a
Basket
medical
weaving.
doctor and a lawyer? I just did it all.
Right, right.
I have a question for you. These credit repair people that's jumping up all over the place, is this some valid stuff? Or I feel like this: get you some auto pay with your bank and pay your bills on time. Cause I sign up with Credit Karma, and every couple months when it pays on time in a certain amount, it says, Miss Moore, your credit score has gone up a couple of points. So I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, and they get all in my chat, and they try to tear me up because I just don't. Some things I'm just like, listen, we've been around long enough to know some of this stuff is just bogus. So can you speak to this credit repair phenomenon we got going on? People think they can pay $100 and get things off their
Listen,
score.
listen. It's funny that you mentioned that because I was actually reading something earlier today, and it said credit. So your FICO score, your credit score, is just the ability. It's just your score, and it gives you your ability to manage debt, right? Okay, so you can manage debt well, or you have a access to a lot of things that can put you in debt. What
Okay.
about building wealth? What
Yes.
about saving? I think so many people are focused on cleaning up the credit
Mm.
that they're forgetting about the savings. You're forgetting about the retirement. You're forgetting about, creating your own pension if you don't have a pension, right? And so I would really, I do know some legit people that will help, write the credit bureaus on your behalf. And some of those things can be removed.
Okay.
But a lot of those things, what happens is they come back onto the credit report. So if you're disputing let's say you're disputing a $500 collection, okay, and they will remove it because you've disputed it. That whatever that bad score, whatever was making your credit score go down, it removes it from the picture, right? So
Okay.
then you do see your credit score go up. But if
Okay.
it's not satisfied, or it comes back on there because someone else can purchase that debt,
Mm.
another collection agency, and they can put it right back on your report.
Wait, so they're selling my debt? What is that? What's up?
Oh, absolutely, they sell
Wait
your
a
debt.
minute.
That's
Okay.
why, it is
Big
fraudulent
industry.
to do that. But at the end of the day, like if you end up going to court and have to stand before a judge and they ask, is this your debt? Did you swipe your card
Mm.
and put these charges on this card? Now, it's up to you. What is your integrity? Did you do it? Yes.
No,
So if you
no.
if you go in front of the judge and they say, did you, this your name? Did you apply for this credit card and so forth and so forth? You know what I mean? If it goes all the way to that point. So I just feel like you just have to really be careful with all the credit people, because I know people that are paying a lot of money every month.
To
They pay
Shaniqua and them.
$1,000
But
or
it's Shaniqua and
$800.
them that's saying they can fix your credit. Shaniqua, how you fixing my credit? And you couldn't get your car fixed last week. Get out of here.
Hello. I
You just
think
have to
what
be careful.
Minister Aisha said is really powerful. That we really need to start thinking about building wealth, and not necessarily trying to fix the credit. If your credit is so jacked up, build your wealth, and eventually your credit will follow.
That's a
Because
Yes.
good word, Reverend. That's a good word.
you'll learn about paying on time. You'll learn about staying focused, and yeah, I could give you $100 to send me a batch of letters that I have to sign, that I got to go out and buy stamps for, buy envelopes for. Now I'm just telling you the truth, because I did it.
Mm-hmm.
Same
I
here.
did it. And you send me a batch of letters and say, okay, now you take these letters, you go to Staples and make copies of these letters, sign these letters, um, buy. So now, not only have I given you $100 or $200 or $300, whatever it was to get in, now I got to go spend more money that I quote unquote don't have, trying to do something. Well, I could have taken this $1,200, $1,500 that I gave you over the past year. If I had that $1,200 or $1,500 for you to fix something, I could have put that into a bank account and started building wealth. I could have put that into a whole life insurance policy and started building wealth. And I'm going to
Absolutely.
piggyback off my statement, whole life insurance. Have you heard of the concept of what is it called? Infinite banking.
Mm-hmm.
What is your thought process on that? I'm about to get the book from Mr. Nash,
Mm-hmm.
and that's my phone. Um, I'm gonna have to call him back. I'm sorry.
Oh,
So the guy's name is Nelson Nash, and he has a book out. It's called "Become Your Own Banker."
oh yeah. It's
Um,
infinite. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
and I was just wondering. I just started doing some research. Somehow it came across my timeline when I was doing watching a YouTube today, and I said, "Well, let me watch it." And I was like, "Okay." So I'm gonna start digging some more. I've ordered the book, and I'm gonna see what it's all about, because to me it makes sense. The little bit I heard,
Oh yeah.
basically the concept is you take out a whole life insurance policy. Then once you have enough saved up in that particular policy, you can pull money from that for your big purchases. So if you want a car that costs $50,000, you borrow against your insurance policy at a 3% rate, as opposed to going to a bank that's going to charge you 18 or 19%.
Oh yeah, I am Miss Infinite Banking.
Okay.
Honestly, it's been around.
Well, why you been hiding this from the black
It's
people?
no, because you know what though, it's just someone,
Because T wasn't talking yet.
Okay.
right. Someone brought that to me, like, Aisha, are you teaching your community about infinite banking? I said it has gotten fancy, just like, okay, the Atkins diet. The Atkins diet, it's they got a version called paleo, they got a version called keto, they got infinite banking is the same thing. Infinite banking is cash value in a life insurance policy. Patrick Kelly, I keep this book by me. It's probably backwards. It's called Tax Free Retirement. Um, he's talked about this since, I don't even know, like probably the early 90s. And I usually sometimes I'm probably down to my last book, but I usually give that out so people can understand how you can have a tax-free retirement by using life insurance. And I'm licensed in 42 states. That's probably my number one selling, that's what I push. I don't really necessarily push it because I'm not like a pushy, sales type person, but I talk about it a lot. And I want to make sure that people are educated on it. So yes, I highly recommend, you can look at a whole life policy, or you can look at an IUL, which is called an Index Universal Life Policy. And it
You're
will,
not
yes.
writing this down, Sean. You got to write it down.
I'm trying to find my little notes, but I need
Well,
you
this
to
is recorded, so you could go back and
yeah, it is recorded. I need you to tell us the name of that book again.
Oh, so this is called Tax Free Retirement. I know it's backwards, but it's by Patrick Kelly.
Okay.
There's also another one called Look Before. This is his other. No, this is from David McKnight, and this is called Look Before You LIRP. So it's talking about life and why all life insurance retirement plans are not created equal, and how to find the right one for you. So he's the best-selling author of The Power of Zero. So these are the type of books that I have on hand. I have The Power of Zero. Those are books that you want to definitely read so that you can understand this concept. This is what wealthy people have been doing for years. And again, of course, we find out about it, 20, 30 years later, but that's okay. We find out about it. And now it's about taking action and asking those questions and getting it done.
Okay, I think, and I'm just going to say this for everybody who's listening to this today and throughout the rest of the world and forever, that don't take this information that you're getting today and throw it in the pile of, oh, I'll get to it later. Right. The only way that you're going to build wealth is over time. You cannot become a millionaire overnight unless you hit the right number. And we know the numbers on that. So take this information and take small steps and start putting things in place. So if it means that you get a whole life insurance policy that requires you to pay $200 a month, you may have to cut back on some stuff so that you can put that money into that insurance policy, so that in 5 years you can walk and say, I want this house, this is what I'm going to pay for it. And they say, well, it's going to be 21%. And that's kind of high for a house, but that's going to be 21%. Oh no, I'm paying cash for it. And then you just pay yourself back with that, and your interest is much lower. So yes, don't waste this information. This is good information.
There's a concept called pay yourself first.
Pay yourself first. Absolutely. Pay yourself
first. You work hard, and we think that I'm gonna splurge. I'm gonna get my hair, nails, and my feet done. And it's like, no, you pay yourself first. You put that in the bank. That 10% she was talking about, you give God his 10, and you give yourself the other 10. And and so at the end of the day, you have something versus spending all your money and having nothing at the end of the month, and you don't know where it went.
Right. And I want to add just one last thing in terms of the life insurance. I have clients who we put there in their retirement strategy, and we use the cash value inside the life insurance as a bridge. And what does that mean? That means, let's say for instance, you want to retire at 58 or 57, right? You don't want to work until you're 59 and a half. or 65, because you like, I'm done, right? You may want to retire from the job, but then maybe God has another assignment for you. Maybe you have your own business and you want to focus on that. Well, you don't have access to your retirement money or your pension money, right, until you're 59 and a half without penalty. And if you want your Social Security, it could be earlier if you have a disability, but typically people can do 62 up to 65, and you can, longer. The longer you wait, the more money you will get. Well, so I have a 57-year-old who wants to retire. She wants to retire at 57. What she's able to do is, because she had been putting money in her life insurance policy for the past 20 years. And at first it started off with a little, and then she started increasing it, when it was like the last 5 to 7 years of her, thinking about doing this strategy. Well, now she can retire at 57, pull the money out of her life insurance cash value, and use that as her income, while she's still working her business and doing whatever else. Then when she turns 59 and a half, she can either she may have depleted the cash that's inside of there, or she can stop, and now she has access to her retirement. So there's a lot of, interesting things and creative things that you can do if you have that pool of money, and that pool of money inside those policies are not being taxed. Depending on how you pull that money out. If you pull it out as a loan, you're not paying tax on those funds. So
Right.
it's just, again, something to consider, when you're thinking about your planning. And you don't have to put all of your money in there. Figure out what percentage of your income that you're going to put into your life insurance plan. What percentage of your income are you going to put into a Roth IRA or your 401k? And then you work on it little by little.
So here's my next question. Just kind of, if you could finish this one up for me. How old is too old to start?
So, that's a good question. I'm gonna pause, because it's gonna depend on your income. It's gonna depend on the amount of money that you have available, right?
Okay.
Because if you get a policy, so I have a client that, well, we did another strategy with her. So she had 50 years old, but she had some medical things going on, and we tried 5 different, I did risk assessments with 5 different companies, and it was like all the same outcome. And one company would insure her, but it would cost so much money just for the cost of insurance that she would almost have to put in $500 or $600 for that money to start being able to grow the cash value, right? So at that point, I told her, okay, this method is going to be too expensive for what you have coming into your household. So for her, what we did was we are building a pension for her by using a Roth IRA annuity. And and then she's doing some other things in terms of a brokerage account. So it's going to depend, because you can have a millionaire or somebody that will drop. They'll say, I want to purchase a whole life policy paid up. Here's $1 million. Let the money do what it do. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's going to depend on your budget, because I would hate to have someone go into a plan and they can't afford it, and then a year down the line, 6 months down the line, they lose their job, something else, and there was no extra money, coming in from anywhere, no savings, and then that policy ends up lapsing. That means you lose the policy and the cash that's in that policy.
Yes.
So it's definitely important for you to sit down with a financial professional, an insurance professional that can give you all the ins and outs. Don't just go to someone that will tell you. I would caution if someone says to only do a whole life, or only do an IUL, or only do term, because they don't know what your particular situation is.
Gotcha.
You want someone that can sit down and assess, what are your financial goals? What are you currently doing? And what do you want? What is your end game? What's your end number? What do you want to be able to do? How much money do you want to be coming in to your bank account on a monthly basis while you're in retirement, or whatever age that is? And from there, you can plan. You can't just pick a number. Oh, I'm gonna put $500 a month to this policy. You don't know. You know what I'm saying? It may not be cost effective for what you're trying to do.
Okay, thank you.
We have a question.
Okay.
Does an employer contribute to an HSA plan annually, or is it a one-time occurrence?
So a HSA, a health savings account, those are high deductible health plans for those of you that don't know. So it's a healthcare benefit, right? So some people have a PPO plan, HMO, and then there's an HSA account, and that's hooked to a high deductible health plan. So an employer, I used to work for a big, one of the largest, I think I say top three, so I won't say the name because I don't have good things to say. Forgive me, Lord. But anyway, I actually was a HSA specialist. So I worked there for 3.5 years and really learned that business. So companies do not have to put a portion in there for you, but a lot of them they do, right? So they'll say if you open this high deductible health plan, we're going to fund it with $1,000 or $1,500. They may do it as a lump sum, so they'll put it all in, or some will put it in as you put money in. So as you're paying into your HSA plan, then they'll put their money in as well. The nice thing about the HSA account, I really wish I was more educated on this plan when I was younger, because if all the times that I paid for a PPO plan and I never went to the doctor, never. I mean, I know that that's a blessing, but all that money that I was spending every month paying my insurance, I never went to the doctor except for just what was already covered, the preventative. With the HSA plan, when you're putting that money in there, and even if your employer is putting money in there and you decide to leave that company, you get, whether it's voluntarily or involuntarily, that money that you put into that HSA account on that card is yours. And you can use 10 years from now, 20 years from now, tomorrow, as long as it is a qualified medical expense. So that's all your prescriptions, your deductibles, therapy, massages, chiropractor, all of that. You could use your HSA card for that. So if you have that as a plan and you don't understand how it works, definitely make sure you get with your benefits person so they can explain it to you, because they'll even ask you questions like, okay, how often do you go to the doctor? Of course, you don't know if you're going to have to go in terms of an emergency, but is there, do you go on a regular basis? Do you take a prescription? Have you already been kind of diagnosed with something and you're so then that may not be the best plan for you. But you want to check it out, because I'm telling you, I wish I would have done that, because I would have had 5,000-6,000 or more sitting in an account because of all those years when I was in my 20s and my 30s, that I didn't really have to go to the doctor, and even if you have to go in an emergency, you're still covered. It's just that your deductible is higher. But that's why they're going to put a portion, well, most companies put a portion of money in there. So if you did have an emergency, you had to get a surgery, they're trying to help alleviate some of that cost, on yourself. So hopefully that answered the question.
So my question is, because we've been talking about, you guys have been talking about some fancy life insurances. That's fancy.
Yes.
Because most black folks, we just worried about getting that 30,000 when grandpa dies. So is that are we getting a remix of insurance policies, or we just learning another way that we should handle this? Because y'all, the fanciness y'all talking about don't sound like it's gonna bury grandpa.
Oh,
and it will.
It does. It will, because it gives you more access. Okay. I have someone that after we finish this, I'm going to call. They called and said, Aisha, we want to get life insurance for our two dads. So husband and wife. I'm sorry. Both dads. I'm sorry, but her dad and then his dad. So yeah. One was 74, one was 64. They said, can I get a 10-year term? I said, absolutely not. I wouldn't put a 10-year term, because you're going to be paying, you're going to be paying almost $200 a month. And it's going to run out, and they may not even get approved anyway, because they were like, no medical questions if possible. So for those individuals, we're going to do a final expense plan, which is a whole life. And it's a final expense. So either they'll put like a 2-year clause. So it's saying that if they pass away in the first 2 years of having this policy, we're not going to pay out the $30,000 or the $40,000, but we're going to give you your money back plus 10%. So it's like it was sitting in a savings account or a CD, right? But if they live past the 2 years, then if they pass away after that, they'll pay out the death benefit. So in their case, I would not recommend, in whole, like a regular whole life or an IUL, those fancy term policies, because that would not make sense and it would be too expensive. So that's what I mean when I say, all these policies are not for everyone. It does sound fancy and great, but I tell people, once I've done the assessment and, just based on my experience of being in the financial world for the past 19 years now, I will say, you know what, I don't feel comfortable with putting you into this policy, and I'll give you a recommendation to maybe talk to someone else, because I have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that I am ethically putting you in a plan that you can afford, and then also one that will do those nice and fancy things, but I have to make sure it makes sense. So I don't think you get away from your term. You don't get away from your final expense, because term is great. I have term. I have all three. Term is great because if you have a young family, you have young children, or you have a big mortgage, or you have a mortgage, or you want to be able to put your kids through school if you're no longer here, a term policy is great for that. You know what I mean? Because you can do a 20-year term, get $1 million. If you're less than 30 years old, even if you're 40, you can pay for $1 million, if depending on your health, sometimes less than $100 a month, or just a little bit more. That's $1 million. So again,
That's your coffee tea.
That's your coffee. There you go. And then don't forget about the babies. I don't know why as parents, and I think in our community, it was like taboo. Ooh, I don't want to get life insurance on my kids, because if I do that, that's just sick. You're going to get a policy on your child because you want them to die. No, that is poverty mindset thinking.
Come on here.
Millionaires.
I like that. That's a good word right there.
Poverty mindset thinking. Millionaires put policies on their babies at 14 days old. They start building wealth for their children, because that whole life that Pastor Sean was talking about, you can put that on your child. Now you have to at least have 50%. No, your child can only have 50% of life insurance, 50% of what you have. So mom and dad together. So if me and my husband have $1 million worth of coverage together, then my child can have a $500,000 policy. A $500,000 whole life policy for a 14-day-old baby is so cheap that, in retrospect to what it would be if, now you're 40 or you're 20, but they start dumping money into those accounts when those children are young. So then when those children go to college, guess what they're doing? They don't have to get student loans.
They're borrowing off of that.
They pulling the cash value out of those policies to pay for their college each semester in full. So don't forget about getting our babies insured. And even if it's something like, well, Aisha, I can't afford to do all that fancy stuff. I put a $4 a month. It was a $10,000 policy for a 1-year-old. It'll cost them $4 a month.
Aisha, where have you been all my life?
Where have you
been? I almost don't want to put your email address in the chat, because there's going to be such a line for me to talk to you.
Yeah, it's
this is amazing stuff right here.
Yeah.
I got a question. I got a question here. How helpful are apps like Acorn, Robinhood? Do you feel like when we're talking about building wealth, that these are things that we need to be accessing, or is there something else for that average everyday Joe who goes to work, who says, I've got this extra $100 that I want to start investing in? Would I do an Acorn? Would I do a Robinhood, or would I do a Charles Schwab or an E-Trade?
Yeah, so that's interesting that you asked me that, because I kind of go back and forth. But I talked to a colleague of mine, and because at first I was like, I didn't really agree with all the app, the Robinhood, the Acorn. There's another one that's out there where it'll take your change and all of that. As far as just saving and wanting to put money aside so you can start building your emergency fund, start having at least $1,000 in a savings account. But honestly, you know what? Because people are we will out and spend $50 going out to eat, right? So if you could spend $50 going out to eat and you have a Robinhood app and you see something that's on there that you may want to purchase, I would say, you know what, that would be fine. Now, as far as building wealth, I think that you want to make sure that you're talking to a professional. So like, right, Charles Schwab, E-Trade, I think that those are maybe just, in my professional opinion, I think that those are a little bit more on the, higher caliber side. But I
Mm-hmm.
have a Robinhood app and, I'll just, it's kind of like my play money. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If I lose that money, I'm not gonna, pull my hair out because it's like it was just change or it was just money that I would have wasted on going out to eat. It was money I would have wasted going out to the movies and buying everybody popcorn and drinks. You can
Gotcha.
easily, excuse me, for a family of two, shoot, even two people, but you can easily drop $100 or more at the movie theater if you have two children and then it's to two adults and you guys are all getting popcorn, drinks, and all of that. So I do like it as an instrument to get you used to starting to put that money away, starting to learn how it works. They have a lot of information. But the problem is that a lot of us don't know which stocks to buy. And we're kind of just going, ooh, Tesla stock went up. Let me go buy it. Well, now you're buying it at the highest price. You may not want to do that because if it goes down, then you've immediately lost money. So, that's why I think it's okay to kind of like play around with, buy shares that you can afford. And then, but once you're like, you know what, I want to start putting, this money where I want to see it grow in the next 5 to 6 years. I want to see, 10 to 15% growth. You may want to actually speak to a financial professional. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'll give my own example. I bought some Ford stock, probably about 10 years ago for, I want to say it was like $12. Wow. Ford has tanked. I mean, I've literally sat on this stock. I've watched it go as low as $3. Yes, $3. Ford Motor Company, $3. And now it's back up to about $7. But I won't sell it. And because I never sold it, my original 5 or 8 shares is now 50 shares.
Yeah.
Because it keeps splitting.
And
my dividends go directly back into the purchase. And so I've got that set up that way. And that's one thing to keep in mind if you're going to do it. For me, when I invest in things that I like. So I like Ford cars. Point. So I'm going to invest in Ford cars. My mama likes Pepsi, so I would invest in Pepsi because I know she'll always be drinking Pepsi, and I'll always have some money coming in. Right. So those
you got some insider trading going on.
Because I just before this pandemic happened, and I started hearing the buzz, I started thinking about like, okay, what things are we gonna, if this really goes, if we really have this at home, shelter in home, what are things that we're gonna need right away? And I was
wish I had invested in toilet paper.
Right, that too.
Or Zoom.
Okay, I said Zoom.
Yes.
And I was so happy. Now I didn't have, a whole bunch of money to put to make a real big impact. But I only put like $100 toward it. But I was happy that I did that because again, I use Zoom all the time. So I think that Pastor Sean, I think that is I'm sorry, minister. Did I say that right? Minister or pastor? Which one?
Scene.
Okay.
We don't have titles here. We're
I'm sorry. Right. I'm like, oh, I don't want to go, Okay. But anyway,
I'm not title hungry, but you need to call me Dr. Apostle. No, I'm playing.
Okay, Dr. Apostle Sean Monts. Okay. But I think what you said was a good point. Even if you're on those Robinhood apps, those Acorn apps, what do you use? What do you drink every day? I started even thinking about like, what material is used to make all these masks? You know what I mean? Like, who owns those companies? I haven't done further research on it, but I start thinking about that. Okay, so in this next season, what are we going to be using more of? What's going to be in demand? Right. So that's an easy way to try to figure out what to purchase, because I have a lot of people that, well, I don't know what to get. So that's you can start by what you use on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you guys, we talk about investments, what do you guys think about foreign markets? Because it seems like everybody's sucking all the juice out of America and they're moving on to other countries. How do we get invested in foreign markets? Because they seem to be trying to be more progressive than we are right now in the States.
Right. Well, okay, so let me go on record and say that I'm not securities licensed, so I cannot give
Advice.
security or stock advice.
Okay.
However, what I would do is in terms of foreign, that's where you want to make sure that you're working with an advisor, a financial advisor, someone who can, give you the insight in
Amen.
that. Because in my portfolio, I do have that. I have a mix though. It's a mix with American market, it's a mix with foreign, and I think that it's important to have that mix. Yeah, because what's happening now, in my opinion, is that the stock market is getting saturated. So that's why when you said, it's split so many times, or the price goes that low for Ford. You know what I mean? Like, if there's a lot of people, so they're like, oh, it's $3. Let me go buy it. Where everybody's kind of buying it in at $3. So when it does go up, you're not gonna feel the true gain it could have been, because now everybody and their mama went and bought the $3 Ford stock. So again, it's one of those things though. When you go into that, when you're gonna play that game, you want to work with a professional, and you want to be in it for the long haul. And you want to say, if you lost this money, like there's this young investor that lost, I forgot how much money he lost. I think it was over.
It was $1 million.
Yeah, okay, because I was gonna say I think it was over
Yeah,
$1
because
million.
he invested something like 15,000, and then he didn't pay attention, and it dropped. He made $1 million, and then he lost it all like in a 5-day period.
Oh,
Right,
But
and then did he commit suicide?
yes,
Yes.
wow.
yeah. And see,
So
the thing is, I'm if you don't mind, I'm just going. The stock market is like Vegas, people. It's like Vegas. You put your money in, you never know what you're going to get back. So you got to know, when you're not wealthy, you have to know, this is money I can lose and it doesn't matter.
yeah,
And if he was, I'm not, I don't want to talk about the young man, but if he was smart and I had put $15,000 in and it hit $1 million, I'm
I'm
selling.
done.
I'm
I'm
selling.
done.
okay.
Sell it all.
I'm gonna take most of it out and leave another
Put
15 and see
put
what.
it in cash. Put it in cash until I
Right.
can find something safe. Ain't no way. I wish my carnival stock would jump like that.
What?
Sell it all.
Listen,
Yes, yes, yes,
yeah,
yes.
I think I'm with you, Scene. I'd have been like, I'm out. I'll leave
Same
out
here.
another 15,000 and I'll go on about my business.
I would have even left 100,000. But see, at that point, I'm playing with their money. So I'm not
Right.
playing with my money.
You got to
And
be
it's
a good
Exactly.
risk. You got to be it's good risk taking and it's dumb risk taking.
right.
Right. But
You
see,
Right.
got to know the difference.
that's why when you sit with an advisor, one of the first questions, they'll give you a questionnaire. One of the first questions they'll ask you is, what's your risk tolerance?
Exactly.
Know those things, because if you're like, nah, look, if I put $10,000 in there and I look in about 6 months and I got $5,000, we're gonna have a problem. Then you are not a huge risk taker. You know what I mean? And that's okay, because you that are very low, so they want to go more into like your bond market, your U.S. Treasury bonds, where there's like it's a very small small probability that you're gonna lose all your money, like very small, and then it goes all the way up. But if you're in it for the long run, then you're not like you want to monitor it, but you don't want to look at it every single day, because it's like, oh, I got $10. Oh shoot, I lost 5. Oh, I got 50. It's too much. It's you got to let it ride its
Right.
course, and then you want to work with someone that can give you some direction on what to do, when to buy, and certain things like that.
So
You're right.
we have a question. Annuities, are those good investments?
So I am a fan of annuities. I do annuities for clients probably I wouldn't say a weekly, but definitely on a monthly basis. I like annuities because they give you some source of guarantee. So if you put your money in, let's say, for instance, if you have an old 401k. So, point in case, I had an executive who, she doesn't work there anymore, so she worked for Boeing, and she young. And I'm like, well, I'm in the wrong field, But she had about 400,000. No, I'm sorry, $200,000 plus, maybe like 225, and in 401k. She left the company and she went somewhere else. So she could have easily put that money into her new 401k. She could have just rolled it over into an IRA, uh, individual retirement account. But what we did, because she was like, you know what, since I've earned this money and this money has grown so well, I want to put it somewhere where I make money, but I don't want to lose it. So we put her in an annuity about 3.5 years ago with some guarantees. They gave her a bonus, all of that. So she called me during this pandemic and said, Aisha, I am so glad that
Wow.
you told me to put that money into the annuity, because when she got her statement, she made money. She didn't lose not one dime, and actually she made money.
Oh,
And she was asking if I could put her husband in one. I said, well, he's still working, so his plan is still active, so we can't roll it. But you can start one, you could do one on your own. There's one company that I know that will allow you to put money in on a monthly basis and will guarantee, an interest rate, and will guarantee that you won't lose your money. So in answer to your question, I do feel that annuities are a good investment. You want to make sure that what type of annuity that you're going into. I work with the index market. So I'm a little bit like in the middle, where if I'm going to work with someone's money, I want to have some sort of guarantees that they're not going to lose their money. So it may not grow as fast as what the stock market can do, but it's going to grow and they won't lose it. I'm okay with that, because when you pick up the phone to call me, you're not like, Aisha, what happened to my money?
right.
I can't do those calls.
You like them to be a little bit more secure.
Oh yeah, I like them to be a little bit more secure. And then for what I do, my risk taking, I let my advisor. I just put in 100. I just put in $100 a month and just let it ride out. Whatever it does, it does. I get the little quarterly statements, but that's money that I know that I'm not going to miss. So, but I definitely feel that annuities, especially the index annuities, are something that you want to look into. But you got like some mosquitoes going on over
Like
there? What's going
something's
on?
biting me over here.
Oh,
It must be the pork chops in my blood.
You
Um,
know,
okay, so for
no.
for those on the more lean side of finances, we
Hmm.
want to see, when I say it, they get offended. Could you tell the people that GoFundMe is not the way to pay for a funeral, and that there is a way to have a life insurance policy that does not break the pocketbook, and we could look a little bit more like we have a little bit more financial literacy if we get a plan for
Absolutely.
funeral.
And I'm careful, like how you're saying, because I see other insurance professionals and they'll be like, GoFundMe is not life insurance, and I totally agree with it. Because I know people get, well, if you've had to use it, you may get offended.
Right.
But however, there's so much education out here, and you can look at, yourself in terms of having that final expense, there. With everything that has been going on too, I mean, I have found that people are getting a little bit more serious about their finances. I mean, my phone has been like text message and bringing off the hook and emails, because now people are like, okay, wait a minute, hold up, let me sit down and get serious here, because this what's going on, or I don't know if I'm going to have my job, or I don't have any savings in the bank, things like that. So I definitely feel that even as a family, if you have a matriarch in your family, why can't the family members get together and send $20 a person, to pay for this $80 a month policy or whatever it's going to cost, right? And then I'm telling you, if you're the term life insurance is one of the most economical plans that are out there. So it's hard to, when people are, when you know that, and then you don't get the insurance, but you see people taking all these trips, and you see people, buying all these shoes and hair, and listen, I tell people, like, listen, I'm not trying to count your coins, because you work hard for that,
Those
and
pockets.
you could do what you want to do with your money. I'm just trying to, bring awareness of, why don't we try to, save that money and protect it. Remember when we first started this, I said, when you're talking about financial literacy and building your financial house, it's just like you got to lay the foundation, you got to pour the concrete. Well, that's your protection. That's your life insurance, your disability, your health insurance. You want to have those, if you even long-term care, you want to have those things in place so that if the inevitable happens, if there's a car accident. I had a nurse, a friend who got into a car accident. A nurse, she was like the lead nurse, so the manager on the floor. She got into a bad car accident in Chicago, and she was out of work for 3 months. They did not have short-term disability. So she was at home for 3 months. So you got to think of nurse, the lead nurse, they probably bring in about, I don't know, maybe 8,000 or whatever, maybe, I don't know, a little more or less a month. But to go from making that and having that, kind of living paycheck to paycheck, or we live up to our expense, up to our salary. If you didn't have a paycheck for 3 months, I ask people, what would that do to your financial household? Like, what would that do to your finances if you didn't have a check for 3 months? That's where that short-term disability comes in. I found that certain government employees don't have short-term disability. I have more than a handful, but I have a lot of clients who are, government officials who they have a great pension. They got great health benefits and the retirement plan, but some of them, there's a portion of them that do not have short-term disability. So we put the short-term disability plan together, because if you have short-term disability, you can't get access to your pension money right away. It's a whole ordeal and all of that. So yes, I mean, make sure that you get, if you don't do anything else, for the most basic person, well, Aisha, I only make $10 an hour. That's fine. We're gonna work something out. If you got to get a $10,000 policy, if you have to save $10, you can save, if you make $10 an hour, so you work an 8-hour day. So let's say to keep it simple, let's say you make $50. Let's say, so 10 hours a day, so $80. So the first $10 that you made that first hour, that needs to go to the future. I mean, again, you can consider how you want to break it down, the tithe or what have you, how are you going to break that out, those hours down. But the rule of thumb with pay yourself first is that first hour is for the future. You can say the first hour is for God, and then the second one is for your future, and then you live off the rest. Mm-hmm. If we can learn to kind of start living a little bit below our means, and we would have the money to get the life insurance policy. We would have the money to do the Roth IRAs. We would have the money, and if you don't know what it is, you can definitely call me and ask, but we need to get these things done. If you are working and you don't have a retirement plan, make one for yourself. Most people, 60% of pensions have gone away. So unless you are in a particular field or industry, you don't have a pension. What is a pension? A pension is a guaranteed payment that they're going to give you once you retire for the rest of your life. Most of us have what? 401ks that you have not paid taxes on. And when if you have $100,000 in your 401k by the time you retire, and now you go to pull that money out, are you bringing home $100,000? No, because you didn't pay taxes on that money. So whatever the tax rate is, they're going to deduct that amount, and then you get the rest. So with all this money that has just been sent out from the government, 1.2 trillion, all this money, do you think taxes are going to go up or go down? What do you all think? You think your tax rates are going to go up or go down? Okay. So now I got $100,000 in my 401k. I'm like, okay, that's pretty good. Let's say the tax rate goes up to 50%. What you going to get? That's why your 401k cannot be your only retirement plan. You have to have a mix. You have to have the life insurance. You want to have an annuity. You want to have the Roth IRA. You want to have a brokerage account. And I know for the ones who are just starting off and you're already struggling, I know that sounds like a lot and overwhelming. You do one thing at a time. You do one thing at a time, and you continue to pray, and you ask God to give you favor and for doors to open, for debts to be canceled. And you write it down. It says, write the vision and make it plain. If you all can see my wall, I have sticky notes all over my wall. I have scriptures. I have, my goal is to live my life without financial limitations, to be debt free by this date. and I put it down on my journal and when it was done, and praise God. So don't worry about, I can't do all the fancy stuff. Start where you're at. The most important thing is to start. That's all I want you all to do. So if your first thing I'll say this and then be quiet. If your first thing is just going to your statements, printing them out, or looking at them on your phone, you don't have a laptop, you only have your phone, look it up on your phone. And I want you to get a notebook and you write down all the things that were not your fixed expenses and see what you can start cutting off. You can start there and then we can build up.
You all right, C?
You okay?
So
you know what? I'm just gonna say this, and you go tell him once I'm finished. We spend so much money on groceries. It's amazing. It is amazing that the amount of money we spend on groceries. I mean, when the pandemic hit, thank God, and that's one thing that I'm very grateful for, that our refrigerator is never empty. We've always got food to eat. We've always got food. But when it hit, there was so much food. And eventually I got to the point when I said, we're not going to the grocery store. And we didn't go to the grocery store for almost 2 weeks, except for like eggs. And we were fine. Mm-hmm. And how many other people can say, you know what, we're going to eat what's in this house for 2 weeks? Yep. And then think about that. You didn't go to the grocery store except for eggs and milk. Now you just saved $150.
Absolutely.
I'm done. Go ahead. Pastor, you okay?
Well, y'all done cut off my cable. You done made me use an Obama phone. And now you in my kitchen. And I can't go out to eat.
Nobody said you can go out to eat.
The song said, this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me and the world can't take it away, but the two of y'all is working on my joy.
I am so sorry.
So I'm not going to be able to call my friends because the call going to keep dropping, and I ain't going to have no cable to keep me entertained, and I'm going to be hungry. Oh. But I guess after all of this, I'm going to be holy at least, because I ain't going to be able to talk to nobody but God.
There you go. There you go.
That's all you need.
Well, you know what I say. Get yourself some stationery. Get yourself some stationery and write a letter.
I can't buy no stamps because y'all gonna say that costs too much. Oh my God!
But you're gonna be rich when you're 55.
Okay.
I'm gonna be rich, skinny,
okay,
and brilliant because I'm gonna be done read everything that ain't nailed down.
Amen.
This has been great information, and this is what I wanted to come out of this. I know a lot of times I tell them I want this to be informational, inspirational, and shenanigans. Now we're gonna have shenanigans, but this is also where we can share information that is helpful. People were saying to me, "Oh, Sunday's best." I said, "I done made 15 Sunday's bests, and I ain't seen no good music come out of them best yet." And so I'm trying to figure out, we have to start looking at certain things as one stream of income and not the whole thing. And so all of these young musicians who want to be gospel stars, you got to look at that as one stream. We got other streams here we got to dig into. And I can't remember one preacher associated with the 4 streams in Genesis, not trying to be deep, but we got to have more than one way to bring some money in here.
Absolutely.
So that when the preacher called for $100 line, you ain't binding them up and saying he of the devil because you don't have no money. And your joy cannot be full.
That's a lie.
Your joy can't be full when your pocketbook is empty. Now that's just how that goes.
But Carolyn,
so I have a question.
Wait a minute, that's a lie. Because you got the $100, you just plan on going out to eat after church.
Right.
Well, see, this is why you got to have $200. Amen. One to give God.
Exactly.
Amen.
The problem is they only have $100. They want to satisfy themselves. When you have $200, you can give one to God, and then you can go fulfill the lust of your flesh. Praise
Amen.
God.
Amen. At
So,
Denny's.
I have heard some stars say that you should start an LLC and become a business so that you can develop business credit. Now, how does that work for everyday Julie like myself? I know some of us are intelligent enough to fill out the LLC paperwork online and send them a check. But how do you get to the point where you can develop business credit? Because even some people who are starting businesses are still using their social security number versus their EIN number, and they're still not able to get a line of credit based on their business EIN. They still have to use their personal stuff. So how do we get to the point where we're using this kind of situation to build wealth?
Well, I don't have the full process of getting the business credit down. I mean, I think that you do need to have your your corporation or your LLC, and you have to have a DUNS number, like your Dun it's called Dun and Bradstreet
Okay.
number. You have to have a listing as far as your place of business, and if you don't have like a brick and mortar, there are plenty of like online places that will allow you to get like a business address. So it's like you can use a suite. I
Mm-hmm.
know that the UPS store, they have something like that, but they may have some things online, and I can find that. I have a list that I have screenshotted somewhere, um, or say put somewhere of the steps that you need to do or take to actually start to get business credit.
Okay.
Because you're going to have to first do like a vendor purchase with some of these companies that will allow you to do like a net 30, where they'll you buy something from them and then you pay them back and they report it to like it's like a business credit bureau.
Got you.
And so, and I think that's where you get your Dun and Bradstreet score and you start to build it up. So then when you do a few of these like online vendors and stores, you start to develop a score. And
Mm-hmm.
from there, you can, yes, go and apply for, when you go apply for a credit card, you're putting your business information down, not your personal. So you can definitely do that even if you don't have that good credit.
Right.
So that's another thing. We're and again, I'm not saying to go out and just mess up your credit or be, foolish and just, not pay your bills and things like that. But I think that we're focusing on the wrong thing. Learn how to build business credit, right? And I'll get you all that list so that you can get to your viewers, like a step by step, and give some even examples of the different vendors that they can go to start establishing this credit. But I definitely think that that's a great idea. If you have a business, consulting, or whatever your business is, definitely look into getting business credit.
Got you. Got you.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
I think that it's unfortunate for people of color. We're so talented. We have so many ideas, but they get left on the cutting room floor because we don't know what the next step is. And
Yeah,
I say all the time that our Caucasian brethren, they take the same cookie recipe and make millions. I mean, they just keep changing the name and the marketing, and we buy the same cookie 1,500 times, and then we have these bake sales at church where these women are making coconut pineapple upside down,
I
flip it
mean,
up,
just
turn it
good,
around, cakes, and you want to punch your mama in the nose. And they never seem to make it any further than the church bake sales.
right?
Um, and I feel like this kind of information is volatile in helping people understand that yes, there's a black and white issue, but the major issue is green. And I used to tell my church all the time, if you don't have any money, you don't have any power. I don't care how many times you walk through here and throw your weight around and say, I'm the Reverend Dr. Doolittle. You still have no power when you walk out of this door and I go on the vision appraisal list and your name is not there because you don't own anything, including your church. You're still renting. And so people look at me cockeyed when I say to them, I love it that your pastor can preach. I love it that he can prophesy, but what does he own? And when you're and talking about churches, and when you're still renting and you're the bishop, I'm giving you a side eye.
Yeah,
I just
It's
ain't feeling you. I
it's
can't
a lot
follow
of
that kind of leadership in the year 2020 because the Bible says, if we're going to be deep for a minute, that the oil ran from the head down. So many people are trying to figure out why I follow the Reverend Bishop Marshall B. Monts. And it's because he has a business acumen outside of the preach and the shout. I cannot be bothered. I cannot be cannot be bothered. So that's my 2 cent rant. And so yeah, I'll let that go for somebody to get an attitude and get in my chat.
Well, you know what? They can get an attitude. It goes back to what Aisha was saying about, and I think you even said about these people setting up what's the thing called, GoFundMe for a funeral. Pastor wearing the finest suits and alligators, and then when he dead, y'all putting up in lieu of flowers, send money to help pay. No, no, you should have taken care of that ahead of time. The
yes,
25 years that he was pastoring, the church should have taken out some insurance on him.
absolutely, absolutely. There's so many, and at least here in Chicago, um, I have done. I do a lot of these type of things, but I was going into the church and having those conversations with the congregation. First, having those congregations with the pastor, and or with the first lady. And the biggest thing was is that you have to get insured. You need to have life insurance. So if you are not here, who number one, does your family have enough to bury you? No, and then number two, you know, who's gonna, they don't have the plan of like, okay, who's gonna be the next person to step in line, how much it's just a lot. It's a lot. And I have seen, like you just said, I have seen GoFundMe and letters and phone calls for pastors and ministers who have left here unexpectedly, and then they're not having the money to pay. So I definitely, encourage the heads to make sure you have your financial house in order, and then do what you can to make sure that your congregation, because one of the first places that a family will come to, if they're your church member, they come into the church. Can you help pay for this funeral? Can you help us? And it would be nice to do that for every member that you have. But if we educate people on why they need to have their own policy, then you can let people be led. If you are led, by the Holy Spirit to give money here or there or wherever, but you're not depending on, okay, well, we're gonna wait on pastor. We're gonna ask pastors, if he can give us, they can give, the church can give us $5,000 because we've been a member, for this long. That has nothing. You're supposed to take care of your own house, and that's why there's vehicles in place for you to do that. So
And
I definitely,
the reality is, it should be just the reverse. Is that you take out a policy so that when you die, the money goes to the church, because the church will have a void of what you have been giving for the past 25 years.
absolutely. And there's policies that actually you can put your church as a charity, like a portion of the benefit on your life insurance policies. There's some policies out there that it's like they will give a 5%, it's like a donation to some church, like it's for a nonprofit. So there's you can look at your policies, and you can definitely, you're right. I've had people do that. Leave, put a beneficiary for their church or some school, or nonprofit agency. You can put that, and they don't have to have the whole percentage. You can just put 10%, 5%, or whatever, because then yes, that will help to start build the fund. So if there is someone, you know what I mean, that needs that help, you all have that income. You have the income to hire another pastor. You have the income to, just a lot of different things.
Yeah.
The building fund and all those things. But
the building fund.
I think that people of color have to have a shift in mindset.
Definitely.
We had this conversation. I was working with a woman who went to a Jewish synagogue, and she was showing me the statement for what people give in the congregation. And they did not have a tithe and the offering because people were generous with their giving. And so my wind was almost taken away when I saw there was 3 or 4 families that right off the cuff gave $100,000 that year. And then it's weird because you see people whose tithes are $20 and $30 every week, and they struggle and they don't come to church and they feel some type of way when they don't have money to give. But I'm like, there is a law of reciprocity in giving to the ministry. And I often say, I don't care what the preacher does with it. I gave it to God,
That's
and he's going to honor that because I gave it to him. Now they get their self in the crosshairs with God when they do strange things with it, but that's a law, and people are all kind of twisted because of the nature of what's happening in church today. But God's law is always going to work,
and
and we
I
have
will
to
tell
have
you.
it. Go ahead.
I will tell you this. I've had to ask for forgiveness, for not being consistent with tithes, and what God has shown me in regards with the tithes. When I paid my tithes, like, even though I was struggling, there was times I was like struggling trying to figure out how I'm going to pay the rent. The kids, I have to write a check for the kids' school and this and that. I promise you, and this is just my personal, testimony. When I pay my tithes, and if I listen to a minister and I was like, ooh, I felt that I was fed by that, I'll get that little text thing and send it. Those are the times God blesses me. Just somebody will just contact me, Aisha. You still do life insurance? Aisha, I have a client for you. I mean, and I'm just like, wow, and I'm not saying that, just because you're going to tithe, you're going to get this, but he said that he would open up the windows of heaven and pour out the blessing. And I'm telling you, every time that I have been consistent and then done above and beyond, so I'm sowing into someone's ministry that has fed me, that's fed my spiritual man, I have been blessed. So
Amen.
I know, for me that it is a different. That's why even in my presentations, I don't care if I'm at a company or if I'm doing a family group presentation, of course, the church, I always say to do your 10% time and then do your 10% to your, to yourself, because that has removed a lot of things that I just believe that could have happened or could have locked up my personal finances. Even being in finances, being a financial professional, it has made a world of a difference in my life. So I will continue to do it. And so where God leads me to, so where God leads me to sow.
I think this is a great place to wrap up, Aisha, unless there's something that you think we missed that is important to what's happening. I already put your email address I pinned it actually in the chat. I
Okay.
didn't know if you wanted your cell phone number and all of that you sent to me on there, but I did put the email. And if you
Okay.
if you want me to put the rest of the information, I have no problem.
Yeah, they can also follow me on my Facebook business page. It's just my name, Aisha McBurrows, MBA, or you can put Grow Money for You. So the number four. So Grow Money, the number four, and the letter U. And you'll sometimes will see different videos, just things that are going on. I'm working closely with the SBA, and so I have been filtering in some phone calls and questions that people have about trying to get those grants or loans or things like that. So definitely, look me up on Facebook, and they can always ping me there if there's a question, and we go from there. And everyone who is listening, I will offer a 30-minute free consultation. So if you have questions, if you need to me to review your life insurance policy, or you just have a specific financial question, definitely reach out to me so we can set up a time and we can talk.
This has been amazing. This has been amazing. Thank you
Amazing.
so much for taking this invitation.
Wow.
Uh, you're gonna be like my new best friend. Aisha, what you having for dinner?
Right.
What's going on out there in Chicago? But I thank you so much. And Scene, who has been rocking with me. He is amazing. He is doing morning meditations for men. On the other platform, I had all these lower thirds and everything I was going to hook y'all up with. But we want the men to be empowered. A lot of times in church, we are empowering women to be warrior wives and everything, and the poor men don't get no love. So we want the men to get in onto this moment meditations with Pastor Scene. He is I actually went to listen to a couple of them. I was like, okay, all right, Pastor Scene, come on here through here. And
Oh,
so we're gonna be So we're gonna
I'm gonna look you up. I wrote it down.
yes.
And I'm not saying your name wrong. I'm so
Well,
sorry. I said Sean.
the name of the podcast is
Type
Love.
it in the chat. Type it in the chat, see?
Which chat?
The
Hold
chat
on.
on the Facebook wall, right above
Oh,
where I
here
put
it is.
Aisha's information.
Oh,
And that way,
I done messed around and went to Aisha page. Hold on.
see, he's stalking you already, Aisha. Look there. I'm gonna be mad. I'm like, we let all these people get in front of us saying we can't get no call.
Look, it said, when would you like an appointment? Now.
Right now. I'm like, can we do it now?
I need to go to bed. Oh God. So we're gonna put all the information in the chat. Don't worry, for those that missed this, I'm gonna be sharing it like you know, just sharing it like crazy. So I'm gonna get on some people's nerves. I'm gonna be sharing all week. I'm gonna put a timer on it. I'm gonna have a schedule to share, because this is information I think that we need. And a lot of times I always say I want to come on here and have a good time. I thought this was great, and we are definitely going to be asking you back sometime soon. And I pray that those of you who are on here tonight would like and share this, and you guys hit her up, and let's get financially literate, and let's get financially free. We got to do it, guys. All right. So I'm gonna let Miss Aisha get her rest, and we'll be back next week. We're gonna be talking about, I think it's gonna be a for men only next week. Oh God. And women been sending their questions already. They want to know what these men is thinking. So y'all have a great night. I love y'all. Y'all be blessed.